Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. On today's episode, let's look at creating and storing passwords in Safari. So the password functionality in Safari not only stores passwords, but allows you to create very strong randomly generated passwords, and you should use this functionality. As an example, let's create a new Twitter account. And I'm just going to create something temporarily. And notice when I get to the password field, it comes up and says use this Safari suggested password. Now you should use this password. It's a randomly generated password. The only reason not to use one is if you use a third-party program like, say, 1Password or LastPass, which also will generate random passwords for you. But you should never use a password that you think of in your head because it's not random and it can be guessed by computer algorithms. So you should always use a random one to keep things strong. And of course always use a different one for different sites. So this is going to be a unique new random password. I'm going to accept it and use it to sign up for Twitter. Now let's take a look in Safari in the preferences, and if we click on passwords here, we'll see a list of all the sites where I've created a password. And if I enter my own password in, it would be here as well. But the randomly generated one is going to be here. It doesn't really make any difference. I can see the username, the website, and the password. I can select it and remove it if I want to clear that out, which I would do, for example, once I delete this Twitter account that I've created as just an example. I can also click here to show these, and it's going to ask me for my user account password, user account for my Mac here. And when I do so, I can see the password there. I can also control click at this point and I can copy the username or the password. So that's useful because sometimes you have to enter in a password into something that's not Safari. Like for instance, I may download a Twitter app and I may want to then copy this password rather than having to look at it on the screen and recreate it. So I can copy it and it copies it to the buffer. That's very handy. Now you also have access to these passwords outside of Safari by using an app called Keychain Access. So I'm going to use the search menu there to search for Keychain Access. You can see it's in the Application Utilities folder. I'm going to launch that and click on the passwords category here. I'm going to do a search for Twitter, and you can see there it is, the one I just created. I can double click it there and I can see information about it, including the ability to show a password here. Now here's what happens when I go to sign into Twitter. I've signed out. I'm going to click on the sign in button here and you can see that it fills in my ID and my password. You can see it has this yellow background here showing that autofill has filled this in. So now I can log in, and that's all there is to it. It's automatically filled in. I don't have to do anything else. Every once in a while I notice a site. Sometimes you have to jump to the actual field for it to fill in. Sometimes it prompts you. But a lot of times it just appears here like this. So now I can log in and I didn't have to type my password. So what happens if I change my password? Let's go to settings here in Twitter again, and I'm going to go to password, and you can see it automatically fills in my current password. Safari does that for me. I'm going to create a new password. You can see as soon as I select that field it's going to suggest a new password. So I'm going to use that, and it's smart enough also to fill it in the second field, the verify field as well. So now I can save the changes on this. You can see here I had a little trouble because this web page, Twitter, which is not associated with Apple, didn't recognize that those fields had been filled in. So just by tabbing between them I was able to activate the Save Changes button. You can see also Twitter rated my password as very strong, as it should. Now I get a little field here, a prompt to update the password. And of course I do want to do that. So now the new password is in Safari saved. And you can see that's the new one that was created. So it's always going to kind of automatically update. Now here's perhaps the best part of the entire thing. If I go to System Preferences and I go to iCloud, I'll see my iCloud account settings. And if I scroll down I'll see one of the settings here is Keychain. And I've selected it. So this is iCloud Keychain. And this means that iCloud is going to be used to sync my keychain between my devices. So my iPhone, my iPad, and my other Mac are all going to share the same keychain. They're going to sync, which means the next time I try to log into Twitter on one of those devices, I'll find that those password fields are already filled in. And this is especially great on the iPhone, say, where it's kind of hard to type those in, especially if it's a long, strong password like this one. So I've created this Twitter account. I've saved the password of my iCloud keychain, and now I can log into Twitter across all my devices, and it's secure because the keychain file is encrypted across those devices. So if you don't have access to my iCloud account, then you can't get access to the data inside the keychain. One more thing I want to point out is, what if you need to update this password here? In Safari here you can't update the password. You can copy it, but you can't update it in the preferences here. So say you have updated your Twitter password on another device and it wasn't connected to your iCloud keychain account. How can you update it so that Safari knows the new password? Well, one way to do that is to go and sign in again, and you can just manually type a new password and it will then update. Another thing that you can do is, of course, you can go to Keychain Access and you can edit in there. So when I select this, you can see that I can actually edit this here if I want.